Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson warned yesterday that a corrupt president with total immunity could turn the Oval Office into a hub for organized crime. With the latest election indictment out of Arizona, it's apparent that the RNC is already there. Welcome to MOMocrats Mama Chat, part of the Demcast family of podcasts. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills with Karoli and Aliza Worthington from crooksandliars.com. You guys, this week, I mean, just yesterday.
Has anything happened this week?
I mean,
anything happening?
I mean, I was cracking up last night with Rachel Maddow anchoring their recap of all the legal stuff and just going, you guys, this is even hard for us to keep tabs on. And we're professionals. This is our job to keep tabs on it. And there's just too much. There's just too much.
It is so much. And I mean, even little things like the news that the guy who was convicted of attacking Paul Pelosi asked for his sentencing hearing to be delayed or whatever. And, like, there's so like, that shit's important too. Like, and the answer was no. Like, they said, no, that your hearing is going to be when it is and, deal with it. But, from everything to little things like that, to what's going on in Arizona, to what's being heard in the Supreme Court, to what's been decided by the Supreme Court, to what's happening in New York, to what it is mind bending and mind boggling, and it is really, really hard to keep track of. And it's almost like you need one of those huge walls with the index cards and the strings.
Yes,
you do.
You
totally do.
And I resent it. I resent it because in the old days,
I get it.
I could read the news and I could spend time on human interest stories and pop culture stories and just take my time. And I find myself now skipping over the fun stuff.
I haven't read any fun stuff in forever. My husband sends me stuff.
Yeah,
because he can sit there and go through the New York Times and the Washington Post, and then he'll say, "Oh, did you read this story about this and so in the Washington Post?" It's like, no, I didn't. I didn't have time for that. I was too busy listening to the Supreme Court.
And the only way to do this, the only way to if I could take like just 30 seconds to laud the to promote the value of prioritizing a teensy bit of fun and making sure you get some fun in your life is to, do it first thing. Start your day with it. I do this, and I learned this from the way my friend Leslie operates. When she goes downstairs, while she's having her breakfast, while she's drinking her coffee, she does the puzzles in the New York Times. I do the puzzles when I'm having my breakfast. I read Carolyn Hacks in Washington Post, who I love. I start my day at least with those things so that I can make sure, some people wake up at 4 to get their exercise in. Well, good for you. I'm not that person,
but I'm not that person either.
But whatever,
coffee first.
For the fun, that the stuff that is really mine, make time for that. You got to have a little bit of downtime for your brain. And I get it. I totally resent it too. I resent that there's not more of it, but there's nothing wrong. I mean, that's just the way I personally do it. And I think it's important to do, like, find a way, even if it's when you're in the bathroom, whatever, sorry for, you hygienic people out there. Everybody takes their phone into the bathroom, do the puzzles there, read Miss Manners in there, do whatever, take some time to disengage your mind. You gotta.
Oh, yeah. I
watch the Cowboy Carter dances in there. Watch the, you got to do it. You have to. Anyway, yeah. But the bigger point about resenting how much of our time outside of that, those 10 minutes a day, that is devoted to having to monitor what the number of people and the number of threats to our democracy is absolutely worthy of your resentment. You're not wrong to feel that, because God damn it.
Right?
I mean, between yesterday's Supreme Court hearing on immunity, while simultaneously getting reports on revelations of how Trump and David Pecker manipulated the news cycle using the National Enquirer of all publications.
To interfere with the election, not just manipulate the news
right.
cycle. I'm going to hammer this as much as I can. This is election interference. Okay.
Yep.
Continue.
It is. And
Yep.
I remember turning National Enquirers, going to the market and turning them, back, so that the back was to people coming in, because everybody goes through grocery lines and everybody saw those awful headlines
You
and those
can't
awful
help.
pictures.
Yeah.
The manipulated, as it turns out, pictures,
Yes.
right? I mean,
Yes.
we knew they were manipulated, but now we have sworn testimony that they were.
Yeah.
And that the stories were lies. I mean,
Made
I think the shamelessness with which David Pecker sat on that witness stand and said that, oh yeah, those stories weren't true. I mean, I'm like, really? Well, guess what? A lot of people believe them,
Yeah. Michael Cohen would call Pecker and say, oh, look, Ben Carson is up in the polls. We need to attack him. So the next issue of the Enquirer had Ben Carson on the cover, alleging that he left a sponge inside a child's brain that he had done surgery on.
Right. And that was a lie. I mean, all the
Yes.
things that they did to Hillary were lies. They,
Yeah.
Somebody like put a composite together. It might have been on one of the cable networks. I don't even remember, but put a composite together of all these like front pages of the National Enquirer with these really, really awful stories and headlines. And it's just gross to see it. And it was all all of a piece of promoting Trump and getting his candidacy. I mean, which is the other shameless thing that he admitted, which was, this was all coordinated with the campaign and, meant to, and with Trump and, meant to save, his candidacy and to boost it.
Yeah.
And it's just, to me, the National Enquirer always used to claim that they had, that, there was truth in their stories, right? When Carol Burnett sued him, and everything, that, that they claimed that, they had, that there was a grain of truth. They might exaggerate, but the core of it was true. David Pecker said, no,
not under Pecker.
We made him up.
Not under Pecker. I mean,
I am. Go ahead, Donna. I'm sorry. I have something to say, but go ahead.
The thing is that, working where I did in Hollywood, we always knew that maybe 50% of what was in the National Enquirer had a grain of truth. You just couldn't tell what 50% it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember we shared production offices with the company that did Too Close for Comfort. And I was with those people every single day. And when the National Enquirer published that Ted Knight had cancer, I had no idea, but then it turned out to be true, and you I would have heard it from the people who were working on the show, but we all heard it from the Enquirer because, they pay off the people at Cedars-Sinai. So they get all this medical stuff.
Gross.
Right. It was John Edwards' story was true too.
Right. That was true too.
Right. But like, here's the thing, like I'm no fan of Ben Carson.
No.
But
okay? I'm not a fan of him, but to publish that about, the one thing he had going for him was his medical.
Right.
His medical
you cannot take those accomplishments away from him.
And that those accomplishments, what he did in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Like to cast aspersions on, I don't know. It just, it almost, it like, it hurts Baltimore too. Like, I take it personally. Like, we were so proud of him, and now we feel like such idiots for, you know, and it's frustrating, and it's all to serve this fucking greedy sociopathic master of what,
And
you know?
and the greedy sociopathic master looks like his hand-picked Supreme Court is going to expand his powers instead of slapping them down
So
like it should be.
before we go there, I just want to go back to one thing that Aliza said, that on CNN this morning, I think it was Dana Bash, who drives me crazy anyway. But anyway, she was like, I just don't understand how he has this ability to like slap down all his opponents. And it's like, dude, you just heard the testimony about how he does this. And to Elisa's point, he goes for the things that person is known for, and then and had David Pecker lie about them. I mean, what more do you need to know about how that happened? I can't help you with that. But anyways, going on to the Supreme Court and the arguments yesterday about immunity. I mean, we could spend a whole show on that alone.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
never mind the Idaho hearing earlier in the week.
There's not just, and there was more. There was the one in the beginning of the week about the homeless people in Grants Pass, and you know, where Justice Sotomayor basically said, so really what you want is just for them to kill themselves, right? I mean, they're not supposed to have any housing. They're not supposed to be out on the street. And so what do? They just kill themselves? I mean, that was pretty much the argument she made. It was just that they're so cruel, and that, you know, and the conservative justices are like, you know, well, why should a city have to have, you know, people sleeping on the street? And I'm thinking, well, why should a country like ours even have people that need to sleep on the street, right? I mean, we should be able to do something about that.
Is it Iceland that has devoted big part of that has wiped out homelessness by actually putting their resources into housing that people will live in?
Yes.
You know, not crappy housing, but good housing.
Yeah.
You know, we could do that.
We could do that.
Do that too. Absolutely could.
We absolutely could do that.
So that was the way they started off the week. Yeah. That was how the Supreme Court started off the week. And then we got to Wednesday when they hear the case on Idaho's abortion ban, which, honestly, God, it was so hard to hear. The lawyer for Idaho was like the sadist.
Oh, yeah.
He was a serious sadist.
Yes. The mother would die. The mother would lose an organ. But the law does not allow for saving her life, you know? Oh, my.
I thought the law allowed for saving her life, but she couldn't. But if she were at risk for losing an organ, that wasn't good enough reason to perform an abortion.
Well,
but
and the problem was
she had to wait until her life was like imminently in danger, and then she could have an abortion. She had to wait for her health to deteriorate to the degree that she was about to die, and then they would perform an abortion. But if all it was that she might lose an organ, you know, like maybe her, you know, whatever, you know, then, you know,
she may not be able to have any more children because she has to have a hysterectomy, but, you know, so what? It was...
That fetus is the most important thing of all. Even if the fetus is going to die anyway, you know, even if the fetus is already dead, and you can't deliver it yet, you know.
Right, and keep in mind, these are the same justices who then would be fine with these born children living on the street.
Right.
You know, seriously. As long as they're not, you know, visible to anybody who lives in Grants Pass, apparently. I mean, they fetishize the unborn, and then as soon as they're born, they don't care. And that argument was among the most depressing I have ever listened to. I couldn't believe what I was hearing from that Idaho lawyer. It was awful. And the Solicitor General was great. I thought she did a great job. But it's not going to matter because you have, Alito and his gang. And I don't know, even Amy Coney Barrett actually sounded a little bit incredulous at the argument, but that she kind of does that.
Where the women,
pretty much the women were like, wait, what
the hell? I mean, women understand how fraught the pregnancy is.
Right.
That it can go bad on the turn of a dime and your life can be in danger.
Yes.
And the men, how is it that men don't get that? They
Well, how much time you got?
Yeah.
I know I'm scrolling through my phone, but I'm looking for a particular piece that Ellie Mistal wrote on
keep scrolling.
This.
I'm sure it's worth it.
It was early in the week and I can't find it right now, but it was so great. And if you want anyone to follow on the Supreme Court shit, he's your guy. But men aren't at risk of getting, cis men are not at risk of getting pregnant.
Right.
And cis men have always had the freedom to engage in whatever sexual behavior they wanted without consequence.
Yep. A little VD here and there. But
a little VD here and there. Inconvenient, perhaps. A little burning when peeing, but
a little insanity in the end.
A sore here and there, But, and they don't want the same for women. Women, no.
They want to control women.
They want to control us.
And they don't want to have to compete with women in the workplace.
Yeah.
Well, they'd like women to go back to, the 50s when they were, standing at the door with the man's drink and some hors d'oeuvres,
how great is it to have household help that you don't have to pay?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
The spotless house and all that.
Some, heaven forbid, some confidence in education and their own credit card, and the ability to leave them without being, crippled financially. This is like, this is what they want.
This is why they're going after both no-fault divorce now, contraception, no-fault divorce, and our actual right to vote. Some of them say that quiet part out loud too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I would like that to be more in front as we get into the election season. Like all women need to know that what they consider to be fundamental rights are in danger. I mean, we've already seen that we have the right, we don't have the right to control our reproductive health. Right. And then the next thing is going to be the pill, and we're not going to have the right to control our marriage/divorce, our personal lives. How long will it be? So they need to know. I know that Biden is doing a good job of campaigning out and being out there on abortion, but it needs to be more than abortion. It needs to be all of the rights that we have as women that are in danger, because I'm not making a slippery slope argument now. They are. I mean, they're the ones that are out there saying these things, not me.
Right. So, and the thing is, they've already, I feel a little squicky making this argument. I mean, it's not like we didn't make this argument 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but, they've been doing this to Black people forever.
Right. Yeah.
Here we are, 3 white women saying, oh my God, they're going to take our right to vote. But after 2020 and up until 2020, they were doing, Republicans were doing absolutely everything they could to suppress the Black vote because they knew it would yield Democrats.
Well, let's go back to
and they're still doing it.
No, of course. But, so, I mean, I don't want to leave that part of the equation out of what we're talking about. Right. They need to pass the voting rights. They shredded the Voting Rights Act. The Supreme Court shredded the Voting Rights Act. Congress needs to pass the John Lewis voting bill. Mm-hmm. And, all these absolutely repressive and regressive voting laws that Republican-led states have passed and are trying to pass, we need to, those are, have been targeted toward Black people and urban neighborhoods and neighborhoods that are not urban, but primarily, Black populations. And it's so, I feel a little funny being like, oh my God, and now they're coming for us women. It's been a long time coming. Not that we're saying that. I mean, I just want to say that we're not saying that. We've been ringing the voting rights bell for a long time. And, this is the logical next step. And to any white woman I would talk to, I would say, this has continued. This is the next step. We are the next step. We should have, and the three of us have been yelling about this when it was happening in 2020 and before.
Right. And I would say that this is all of a piece of what we were talking about last week with regards to, getting white women out to vote. That it's all of a piece of that, right? Yeah. That this needs to be something that we all care about.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's so true. Like when everybody votes,
we win.
Everybody wins, except for the authoritarians. And how is that bad?
It's not bad. Of course,
it's not. But I would want to put other people on the spot and ask them to tell me why that's bad. Why is it bad for people to have health care? Why is it bad for all populations to be able to vote? Why is this bad?
The big lie is that when everybody votes, there's cheating, right? That's the whole thing. And that's what they've spent the last 3 years essentially.
And that's why you have to arm yourself with facts. That's why you have to arm yourself with facts and say, actually, here are boom, boom, boom.
Right.
Okay. And in what instance, where has the cheating happened? It turns out the cheating's happened on Republican side. Look at
funny about it all.
Look at the village, the villages, Exhibit A.
Right. Well, projection. So,
right.
So moving on to the last Supreme Court argument, which never should have happened in the first place. Yesterday's.
Wait, which one now? The most recent one?
Absolute immunity.
Immunity hearing yesterday.
Right, yeah, which never should have happened. The DC Circuit did a great job of laying out why there's no absolute immunity for anything. And, the arguments yesterday were not actually about the issues raised in the suit, right? The issues raised in the suit were specific to the issues raised in the January 6th allegations, right? So the January 6th, his participation in the fake elector scheme, his, engineering of ginning up the crowd, those kinds of, all the things that went along with that, him trying to pressure Mike Pence into, doing something that was unconstitutional, essentially. Right. All of these things are not things that are subject to immunity, but they didn't talk about that. At least the conservative justices didn't. Right? They talked about everything but that. In fact, every time that the counsel for the special counsel would bring it up and say, in this case, we have this set of circumstances. They're like, oh, we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk in, the broader universe. And Gorsuch is out there saying, we're writing a rule for the ages. And it's like, that's not even their job.
Yeah.
Well, their job isn't to write rules.
Don't they hate activist courts or something?
Well, only when it's liberal activists.
Democrats, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is that every time Dreeben tried to get into the weeds of the actual complaint, of the actual brief, he was interrupted. Right. He was never able to complete an argument. The men on the court, the conservative men, kept interrupting him. And again, I'd like to say that Amy Coney Barrett, once again, was surprising, but because she got sour, Trump's attorney, to admit to places where Trump wasn't immune. He goes, no, he wouldn't be immune from that. No, I mean specifics.
Right. Private act. That's a private act. That's a private act.
Right. I have this fantasy about Coney Barrett, which I know is just a fantasy. Yeah. But you know how before the Heritage Foundation, or no, not the Heritage Foundation, but the Federal Society started, giving them lists of who to appoint, and they would appoint people with conservative records, and after years on the court, they would get more and more liberal. I have this fantasy that that's going to happen to Coney Barrett.
Well,
dream.
You might. I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah.
But the other thing is,
after years of working with, or maybe even after 1 year of working with Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas, you never know what might be going through Coney Barrett's head.
She's got Sotomayor.
There's Sotomayor, Kagan, and Ketanji Jackson.
Ketanji Jackson. Oh my God, she's good.
You never know what kind of impact that might have.
Yeah.
On Coney Barrett.
Yeah.
So,
who, in all fairness, doesn't seem like an evil, unkind person, but seems just like a useful, stupid ass, like culty Christian person.
Yeah. Well, that's my dream.
She is in court. Very smart. I will say, I mean, having heard her participate in a number of different arguments, I think she's very smart. The thing I would caution everybody about is, do you remember when the Affordable Care Act arguments took place? I think in it was basically, they came for repealing the whole thing on a really weak predicate. I think it was 2015. And that everybody, all the journalists and everybody that was there said, they're going to kill it. They're going to kill it. It's toast. It's done. And then they did.
Robert saved it.
Right. And so I just want to say, I think that it's possible that happens here. I mean, it may have been that these guys, basically engaged in mental masturbation for 3 hours, the men,
they do.
Right. And everything. But it could also, Roberts was pretty silent during it. And it could be that it isn't going to be the disaster we think it is. But with that said,
it might be a 5-4.
I don't know. Amy Coney Barrett's idea about basically severing the things that we know are not, that are private acts, and sending that back to be tried and dealing.
It becomes a test that they have to come up with rules for.
But they don't. That's the thing.
I know that.
They don't have. In fact, I would argue that is not their job. That is Congress's job to come up with a rule. It is not the Supreme Court's job to come up with a test and a rule.
Right. It's the Supreme Court's job to decide if that test and rule is constitutional.
There should not be a law about presidential immunity, Right? We haven't really until we had a criminal in the White House.
Well, here's the other thing, right? And I thought that that what was his name, the lawyer for our side?
That was
Dreeben. Okay, right in his opening remarks, he said there's no immunity in the Constitution. There's no mention. They could have put immunity in the Constitution, and they didn't. Right? There is no. Now, if you're an originalist, right, that should be all you need to say we're done with this argument. Go, go try the case.
They've proven time and again that originalism was bullshit.
Right.
It only when it serves them.
Right.
Right. In other words, it's bullshit. It's just an excuse.
Yeah.
It's just an excuse to go back to the 1864 law.
Right. Yeah. Yes, that. Speaking of which, do you suppose that Arizona, now that Arizona's House has repealed the 1864 law on their books, that the Senate's going to pass it, or do you think they're going to? I think the Senate's going to fuck it up. That's what I think.
I think I read that there is at least one Republican in the Arizona Senate willing to cross the aisle.
What is the breakdown in that Senate?
That's what I was just looking up.
It's gerrymandered in Arizona. So while they have statewide Democrats in control, the legislature is Republican led. And that's why you have this dichotomy going on there where you've got it's
more even than I thought, though. Republicans control 16 seats and Democrats 14.
Okay, so
it's possible that they could if they can get 2 Republicans on board. Right. It's possible that they actually could do it. I assuming there's no freaking filibuster in the Arizona Senate. I mean, that would be the only thing that could really mess everything up. But
in the meantime, the AG of Arizona just issued an indictment on the election interference there and the fake electors, and she expanded it past the electors. This is the part that was surprising to everybody. She expanded it to Trump's inner circle. So you've got another indictment for Mark Meadows. You've got an indictment for Christina Bobb, the newly named general counsel of the RNC for election integrity. How's that for crazy?
What a thing that she is, man. I'm just saying.
I don't know her. And Jenna Ellis is in there too, right?
Jenna's back.
Rudy Giuliani.
Rudy.
Mark Meadows
is an unnamed co-conspirator again.
Right. An indicted co-conspirator.
Unindicted co-conspirator.
Right. So, and I don't know how fast they do trials in Arizona, but I mean, it's kind of the Wild West out there. So it could be, they could be boom, boom, boom. Let's go. Let's get it done out there. So I hope so. I mean, this trial in New York is driving me a little crazy only because, I mean, it's driving me crazy because the cable is being so breathless about it. I mean, it's like the OJ trial. I mean, that's that like today I must have heard 60 times from CNN anchors that, Trump's attorney is cross-examining David Pecker to poke holes in his story. Well, duh. I mean, that's what you do.
What happens in a trial?
Yeah, you cross-examine to poke holes in his story. Do we need to know more? Every 5 minutes that's what's happening?
Yeah, does he actually do it? Because, that might be news, but I mean, otherwise.
It doesn't look like they succeeded in doing it.
Yeah, no, I don't think they did either. And honestly, weren't you really kind of appalled at his story generally?
Yes.
I mean,
David Pecker's story?
Yeah. I mean,
did they report on that aspect of it? There's so much substance in there that they could be analyzing and taking apart. But
they did the first day. As the story was, each little breathless thing is being brought back to us. I mean, in some ways, for the same reason that the OJ trial was what it's like it's the best reality show on TV.
Yeah, except
right?
we don't get to watch it, I mean.
But the problem, of course, is that this reality show affects us all.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
where are we?
It was interesting.
Good.
It's an aside that it was interesting to hear that Pecker had this similar arrangement with Arnold Schwarzenegger when he was.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah.
And other people too, but
yeah.
But in this case, I mean, his job was to basically we've gone through this, but it's just to tear people down to build Trump up. And that's it's sick and appalling and everything else, but it is what it is.
And I can't wait for Hope Hicks to be on the stand.
I want to hear from Hope Hicks. I want to hear from Stormy Daniels. I mean, those are the ones that, and Michael Cohen, right? I do want to hear from Michael Cohen, and they will try.
We hate this.
Yeah, that's not. I am just dying for the two people I really just like salivating for them to be in the same room facing Trump on the stand are Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen.
Yeah.
He
won't be able to restrain himself either. That'll be the other thing.
Which brings me to my next question, which is where are we on the gag order stuff? What is
Thursday.
The hearing is Thursday?
Again, he keeps rescheduling the hearing. And one of the pundits on MSNBC yesterday was speculating that not making a decision is the only leverage the judge actually has on Trump, keeping him on tenterhooks, because he's limited. He doesn't want to send him to jail because that's what Trump wants, and he will fundraise like crazy over it.
Mm-hmm.
And the most that he can fine him is $1,000 per violation.
Which is
by keeping him in limbo, that's actually limiting him a little.
I think you're right about that. Actually, I think that's a good observation. Because he has been, to the best of his very limited ability, been quieter about it. So
and you guys, the fact that he doesn't lash out at David Pecker tells me that some of these stories that Pecker has killed and had in his little safe about Trump. I mean, who thinks that Trump probably did order a contract killing or something? I mean,
wait, what? So tell me some of these stories, because I didn't.
We don't know them because they were, but you notice Trump never says anything bad about Pecker.
Because Pecker has all of these stories that he killed.
Skeletons in the closet.
Pecker's got dirt on Trump that we don't even know.
Yeah.
As odious as what we do know is, there is worse stuff out there.
Yep. Yeah.
So we could probably take some bets on pregnancies, abortions, children born, and contract killings. We can do a bingo card if that shit ever comes out.
When he said that he could murder somebody on Fifth Avenue, I'm going, oh my God.
He's done it. He's ordered it. Yeah.
I don't think children will be in that list, only because he seems to be, when it comes to children, it seems to be, he divorced Ivana for Marla when she was pregnant with, when Tiffany, right, and everything. And that only lasted until Tiffany was born, pretty much, and then that was over too. It seems like when it comes to kids, he wants to claim them. I don't see him having illegitimate kids, but I do see him, ordering hits and doing other things, that he shouldn't be doing. The others of us who are not immune would be in jail for.
Yeah.
So yeah. But It's just all so much. So maybe we should talk about, well, I'm trying
Should
to,
we pivot to something else?
yeah.
Something else
Yeah.
happened?
So do we want to talk about something good, like what Biden did in 1 week?
I think that's an excellent idea because I get so tired of, after 9 years
I know.
of the orange shit.
So this is
Can
1 week.
Can I start with Baltimore having a ship go through the harbor?
Oh yeah, yay!
That is good news.
Yeah, that's and that's not even on this list.
That's not even on the list, but yeah, we have
Yeah.
our first ship going through since the
That's
Key Bridge
fantastic.
collapsed.
I mean, that's huge. That's like
Yeah.
like Pennsylvania's highway being reopened after it
Yeah.
collapsed, right? I mean,
Yep.
that's like,
After what is today's the 26th, so we're looking at a month, 6 weeks.
a month.
It's amazing.
That is amazing. I mean, they had to clear all that
They're still
debris
doing
out.
it. I mean, it's not like there's
no,
not
obviously.
a crap load of work to do, but they are starting.
Right.
This administration,
So
along with
confident.
Wes Moore and Brandon Scott, I'm just saying that, like, the Democrats get it done.
Yeah.
So and that's so
thank
I
you for the
Matt
judge and
Stoller
fighting.
published this list of things that happened this week that
Yeah.
Biden
Just
had
this
his
week.
hands on just in this week, right? So while we're talking about the Supreme Court like trying to destroy the country
Yeah.
and Trump being on trial and maybe only on trial in this case, this is what Biden did this week. He banned non-compete agreements for 40 million workers. He raised overtime wages for 4 million salaried workers, forced airlines to automatically offer refunds for canceled flights and poorly handled baggage, banned illegal junk fees in mortgage lending, forced divestment of TikTok from Chinese ownership. He did that with the help of Congress, but still.
I'm not sure that's a good thing, but
I think it's a good thing. I think that
I don't understand that, but okay.
So Chinese, they were using that as a data collection tool on Americans.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad idea for them. This is why I don't have a TikTok and I don't have it on my phone.
I don't have a TikTok either, but I think that we need rules about the data collection that American companies are doing.
I agree.
They cannot be trusted. And, the American companies will sell our data to China. No problem.
Well, so I agree with you that
TikTok to get the data.
But that might be next week's task. I'm just saying,
right?
So
anyway,
that was number 5. Number 6, blocked corporate merger and insulation. 7, filed to block corporate merger in fashion. 8, announced tariff increases on steel to protect domestic producers. 9, announced an end to the duty-free period on Chinese solar panels to encourage U.S. manufacturing. And 10, passed the first federal privacy law to stop data brokers from selling sensitive information to China. So there you go.
And that's just 1 week.
That's just 1 week. Okay, and then we had Congress over the weekend and into the first part of this week, finally passing the aid package for Ukraine and Gaza and Taiwan and Israel, which should have been done 6 months ago and wasn't. But, Mike Johnson finally figured out that because, well, I have my reasons about why I think he did it. Okay.
And we talked about it last week because that was when the House did it, but then the Senate got it done over the weekend. And then
the Senate got it done. And so Biden signed that into law. And I saw that Poland is already sending tanks, that NATO tanks there to Ukraine. So finally, Ukraine has what they need, I hope, and can get it in time, I hope, to actually defeat Russia. So that was what Biden was doing this week. And he had a few campaign stops too, and he's doing
some pretty devastating social media.
Yeah,
media was
taunts.
wonderful.
Not
It
that
was
he's
great.
in charge of that, but I mean,
He hired the people in charge of that. They're doing a wonderful job.
their
they're
tweets are
great.
fire. They're so great.
They
the
are great.
emails, the press releases,
I love the press releases.
Oh my God.
The one on Wednesday, which is the only day that Trump has to campaign, right?
Yeah.
Only from court, other than weekends. And they sent out a one-word press release, or press release. What was it? Was what Trump?
What campaign? Trump's campaign activity today, or something like that.
Yeah. It was the Biden-Harris statement on Donald Trump's campaign rally today.
Right. Nothing.
That was the whole statement.
That was it. And then they put out another statement the next day that basically said, "Oh, he was playing golf." So, so Biden is having this great week, all of which is getting kind of buried because of
of course.
Which is frustrating to me, that there's not even a moment that they can dedicate to, hey, Biden's having a good day.
Biden has had a great term.
Yeah, the whole term.
Competency, quiet competency does not generate clicks. And so nobody knows what Biden is doing. That's why this list that you gave us, Karoli, to read out, that was so essential. I think that every week we should be reading out what the Biden administration did in a week.
In fairness, locally speaking, the ship coming through the harbor, was big news locally.
It is big news. Absolutely.
No, but I mean, like, it made the news. It made, it was all over the place.
It made your news, but it didn't make our
right.
news.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, but like the local news station, it was in, the Baltimore Sun, the Baltimore Banner, we reported on it. It was, amplified. But nationally, it should be, people should know about it.
Yeah.
So because Biden is having such a great week and Trump is having such an awful week and nobody's hearing about Biden, Axios decided that they were going to throw a report out this morning. And it was written by the usual Trump sycophants, Hans Nichols and Alex Thompson, saying that Joe Biden is old and so he needs aides to walk with him so that he doesn't fall. It was so
that you don't notice him shuffling.
Oh, that was what it was. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. The reassurance that he doesn't fall was secondary.
Right. Right. And it's funny how they always forget that Trump is only 3 years younger than Biden.
Right.
Yeah. And have you seen
that Trump wears diapers? I mean,
we don't know that for sure.
Yeah,
come on.
It is rumored. It is rumored he smells bad.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I mean, Axios is a shit site and those are shit writers. And they're just, honestly, I'm promoting a little bit here because our writer Conover just absolutely ripped them a new asshole this morning.
Yeah. You should promote. I mean, Crooks and Liars
is great.
It is great.
So,
and it teaches people how to see through the bullshit mainstream media game.
Well, I have to tell you something. I have never followed or read Axios, even though everybody else does, because the whole premise of that site is to make you stupid, right? Yeah. Everything is written in bullet points.
Yeah, I don't want that. I want to get the detail.
Right.
I want the information.
I like full sentences.
Yeah.
And the whole zoom in thing is so ridiculous. Yeah. The details that they come up with it's just not a site I read. I don't read Politico either. And that's also because
I stopped that a long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, everything is framed in a negative light when it comes to Biden or any Democrat, basically. Yeah. So
I don't like the negative ones, but I feel that it's important not to wall myself up in my liberal bubble. So
what do you read?
Depending on the story, I will do that. I've been reading The Bulwark.
You've been reading
what
what?
writers? The Bulwark.
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't see. I feel like
right.
they are at least now. My
There's some-
friend Fran, I can feel her thumping me on my back for this. Because,
Yeah.
but I feel like they are at least somewhat honest about what
There
they're
is some
saying.
integrity about the people in the Bulwark. Some of
Politico
them.
has been
I'll
attacked.
skim through what Bill Crystal says because he's full of shit most of the time.
Right.
Yeah,
But
but Tim
writers
is
are
good. And
great. Jonathan Last, he's very good.
yeah.
Tim Miller, he's good.
yeah, Tim Miller is good.
So, I mean, I would have less problem with that. My problem with Politico is they're dishonest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're dishonest about it's just like covering this story about Biden walking with AIDS. Well, who cares, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who the fuck cares?
Yeah. And every
about
time you say that, because I know you're doing it AIDS, AIDS,
I
keep
know.
thinking it's HIV.
I know.
It's
I
not
me too.
what Axios said. It's not HIV.
Yeah, we have to say that because we're an
So as long
audio.
as we're talking about media and websites,
Yeah.
let's do let's all say rest in peace, Gateway Pundit.
Well, he's declaring bankruptcy to get out
couldn't happen to a nicer asshole.
Right.
to get out of paying his.
Right. I mean, it seems clear that he's trying to get out of paying a very big judgment to Shea Moss
Right.
and Ruby Friedman. But I checked with some people, and they said you can't declare bankruptcy to get out of a judgment.
Is that right? Okay.
Rudy's problem because he declared
Right.
bankruptcy right after his.
Right, and you still have to pay the judgment. So
Okay.
the only thing that would enable him to do would be to start up another entity and be able to make money with that, with which he will have to pay the judgment
Right.
on the other end. So,
But I mean, so far they haven't been able. The Newtown people haven't been able to collect off of Alex Jones.
they haven't been able to collect. But he declared bankruptcy too. But the judge, I don't think I'm pretty sure the judge didn't actually allow that bankruptcy to go through.
Really?
Yeah, but it just takes time to get collections going. I mean, they're going to have to put, liens on everything and get it that way. It's not easy stuff. And in Texas, it's especially not easy. And that's where Alex Jones is based.
No.
Jim Hoft, the dumbest man on the internet, is based in Missouri. So there's different laws there.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I'm concerned, I mean, being a site that basically came into being at the same basic time as Gateway Pundit did, and not facing that as an issue, to me, that's enough schadenfreude for me. So, I mean, and we've, had our challenges, right? I mean, traffic, like Facebook and Google's, but pretty much killed traffic and ad revenue.
Yeah.
And if we didn't have loyal readers who subscribed, we would be screwed.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that. But yeah. Anyway, I just had to mention that. I'd like to just rub it in a little bit because it's so
and also in media news, The Onion's been bought.
Yes.
That
was interesting.
It really was.
Collins.
By Ben Collins.
Yes.
Who is a Democratic fundraiser, right?
He was a reporter for NBC.
Oh, right. He was a tech reporter, right?
He was on the dark web beat.
Yeah.
Along with Randy Grovney.
Okay, yeah.
So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Should we address the campus protests just to change
in 6 minutes?
In our last 5 minutes?
I mean, we can. We can say a few things about it. I don't know. Donna, you want to go first?
It's hard to see. I feel, and I told this to Aliza yesterday, that I feel very torn. I was born 8 years after the establishment of Israel, 11 years after the end of World War II. I grew up as a young baby boomer, too young to be part of protests, but admiring the students who protested Vietnam. My heart is with the Israelis, not the government. My heart's also with students. I think that a lot of students are being manipulated. I think, Aliza, you're right, that there's a lot of manipulation going on and not a lot of understanding. I see a lot of people being unable to talk to one another. Now USC has canceled their commencement. None of this is very good for free speech, which I do believe in. Not hate speech, but free speech.
Yeah.
And it's a fraught time. And you've got politicians, you've got university presidents who don't know how to handle it. You've got politicians like Greg Abbott sending in the National Guard and violently arresting students. You've got Jewish students and members of the community just being afraid to walk across campus.
With good reason.
It's a mess.
With good reason.
A mess.
Yeah.
And it feels very much, I would agree with Aliza, like it's a mess that's been made on intentionally.
Yeah.
And everything you said, I agree with, Donna. I don't want to see dead students. And I think students should be able to walk for graduation, you know, and all that. But also I saw some of the worst anti-Semitism I have ever seen in those protests. And it's wrong to deny that. And that's, you know, I've seen media figures just literally not talk about that, or, you know, ones I respect.
I know. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to watch those segments.
It is. And I feel like,
here's
like,
the thing.
if Russia or, you know, Saudi Arabia or whoever wanted to put active measures in place to divide this country,
this is it.
This is where they
succeeded. I think they have, and they did, and they succeeded.
I agree.
I think that's what's happening. And I also think that the solution is with the campus solution is with the students. It needs to come from the students. It comes from within the pro-Palestinian movement. They have to call out the anti-Semitism. They have to understand and call out the difference between hate speech and free speech. They have to recognize what is an actual, admit what's a call for violence and not permit it. They have to understand that when they call for another 10-7, they're calling for violence, and that shouldn't be allowed, as opposed to being critical of the Israeli government for making it so easy, you know, for actively starving kids and families. And, you know, that's a different thing. And that needs to come from within their movement. They need to police their own. And so do the Jews. So do the Jewish people. And, you know, but that's the only way forward. That is the only way forward. But that's not happening. And the thing is that once you see, you know, and that's the majority of these protests have just been filled with anti-Semitism. And whenever somebody holds up a Jewish person and says, this Jewish student hasn't seen anti-Semitism, it's because they're part of that movement.
Right.
Of course they haven't yet. And the thing is that when the police are called and when the police are brought in, I hate that. I hate that. Not just because I don't want to see dead students. I don't want to see dead students. I don't care how anti-Semitic they are. I don't want to see that. These are kids. Okay. I want them to live. I want them to learn. I want them to be happy. And the other reason I don't want to see dead students is because guess who's going to get blamed?
Right. And I worry about the convention in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I worry about, all of that. And
I mean, why did they pick Chicago again?
And I'm concerned. What I would like to, if I could have a conversation with these students, I would ask them to turn their passion to what's happening here.
Yeah.
And the fight that we're having for our own democracy here.
For now. Just for now. But they can say, well, we can chew gum and walk at the same time. Of course you can. Of course you can. Well, in that case, how about walking and chewing gum and understanding that it's possible to be angry at Israel without being angry at all Jews? Understand that, we are both traumatized communities. Understand that we have a lot in common, and understand that the Jews want peace. There's a lot we can, if you want to focus on what's happening abroad.
Well, at the same time,
but this is
they blame Biden for it too.
Fine. Right. Okay. We can
focus on what's happening here. And
but the thing I really need
to vote.
I need people our age to understand this is not Vietnam. What we're seeing on college campuses is not analogous.
No.
The protests are not analogous to the Vietnam protests. Okay.
No, they're not. But
we need to, so let's stop idealizing what these protests are about. Okay, these protests are about anti-Semitism.
Yep. They are.
So, on that note, on that note, I'm going, go O's.
And still.
And lock him up and order your Biden signs.
Yes.
I'm going to order mine as soon as we stop.
And so that is our show for the week. Join us next time on YouTube, MOMocrats.buzzsprout.com, or on your favorite podcast service such as iTunes, Google, and Amazon Music. And be sure to check our Facebook page for updates. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills with Karoli and Aliza saying bye for the MOMocrats. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
MOMocrats Mama Chat is part of the Demcast family of podcasts.